that correct? Board meeting, Fairfield County School Board of Directors, trustees, whatever we call it today. Call this meeting to order. I believe we have received proper notification, Ms. Dodson, that's correct? Thank you, ma'am. I do confirm a quorum. Looks like everybody is present and ready to get started. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to enter executive session regarding legal personnel matters. I think it said something about
It's the same one.
student issue, but that is
It's
not
the same one.
correct. So
Mr. Chair, I have a point of personal privilege.
yes, ma'am.
I think we should acknowledge that we have a big man in the county in our board meeting tonight. Dr. Britton called him on me, so I'm going to surrender, so I'll make a big scene. Our sheriff.
Is it that protect him, you from us, or us from you? I don't know how that works.
Dr. Green, what is that?
I'll do a wait and see what happens.
Sheriff, but we're glad to have you with us.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
make a motion we enter executive session for contractual legal personnel matters, certified resignation and recommendations, and we don't have the student readmission, it's the same one.
That's correct. That's correct.
Provided I get a second.
Thank you, ma'am.
Chair, I second.
Thank you, sir. Y'all like my new glasses? I told you I couldn't read this thing. All those in favor of entering executive session for legal contractual personnel matters and certified resignations and recommendations, please signify by raising your right hand. That appears to be 7-0. Thank you. We will reconvene no later than 6:30.
What's been bothering me for driving home is it. Oh, okay. But now it's summertime. Okay, gotcha. Living is easy. Good to see you. Good to see you, baby. Okay. Sit down. What did you say? Oh, I just wanted to talk to him and I got right. But I received about 10 phone calls from the division. It's the people who prosecute the criminals. This is not the name of my house. They're calling me. At least 6 or 8 or 10 times over time. But this is a recorded message. And it said if you want to respond with further information or whatever, call this number. So about 4 or 5 calls ago, I called the number. And this man says, if you would like not to be called anymore, you have to give me your code. And my phone number.
Security number?
I think so. Every little he asked me for his phone. And my phone, I said, listen,
I was like, that was one.
if you already have my phone number, how the hell do you keep calling? So why do you keep calling me? Well, I cannot stop the calls unless you give me your number. And I think that's the time he asked for. I just told him.
Hey, how you doing?
So he told me,
Who's the other guy?
call him back and give him the phone number that they gave me to call. But see, they don't leave the number when they call on the recorded thing. It's when I call back, and then he talk with his man. And that's when he asked me for, that's when they leave my number when you call, had to. Otherwise, they don't know they phone it. But it's been very
Yep, lots of them retired.
I might do it one more. Just don't want to do it all, but. Yeah, lots of things.
Go ahead, 'cause it's cold.
Yeah, I'm telling you, 'cause I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
Okay, for sure.
I ain't just going on that. I ain't super long on that, we're done. Good stuff. It's your job,
I say, but he doing good. I mean, he's doing good. I can't keep on church though.
Total.
See, I can make basketball games, though, but I get over it, though.
You aggravated?
Yeah, I aggravate you too. I don't bother nobody.
You get one of it.
Yeah, that's right. Know who you're talking about.
Thank you, my dear.
What's it, I thought what them did that time. What you told them? Why you bad?
I think good right now. You gonna get it. I know. Good right now.
How do I do this? I'm back.
We still have some bad days, but more good days than bad now.
Lord bless them.
That's good.
They will get out some, I think that's out for a little bit.
Yeah.
How are you gonna make it in
Rudy, I saw him, he came out and did it on 4th of July. I thought maybe we'll get it.
Why, but
I will.
I ain't seen it in a long time.
I talked to him on the phone from time to time.
I was on Facebook for a reason. Somebody had an article about Mill Thompson saying.
I'm making notes on what I'm gonna say.
About 5, 6
I've already had two people tell me that.
That boy back up on Facebook.
Yeah.
I said,
Yeah.
I said, well, you know, in the late spring, I started coming because it get dark too quick. No, I'm cool. But they don't have enough meeting after this one until school over there. And see, this is July. They have one second Sunday on. Yeah, in August. Yeah. So what's going on with you, my dear? How you feeling?
My fingers.
Oh,
I'm feeling better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I needed sleep.
You really, I could, the other day when you were there, I'm telling you, you look bone weary.
It was further from here, all the way down.
Is that better?
Yes. It's fine.
I know.
I think I just need to sleep. It was
She
fatigue.
came to me, I know.
She gave me
I know she was that way.
Annie is going with the department,
what's her house, she's got something for me to do.
District.
the House of Representatives.
41. Is it 41 or 50?
I can help you do it on Melissa take you up at night.
have you been up to school to get up?
That's when the big bills,
Stacy,
I wasn't expecting to be that big.
House
Let
Representative.
it be.
I'm trying to get him to rename the field.
Oh, the
Wild man.
State Department. Football state.
You want to start football program going.
Yep, just take championship back to back.
Yeah.
Next, I want you Tonight?
We not in the car.
Actually, it's 16 or 17.
She's not getting it.
And I'm like, but you see, and that's up there. You know, I wasn't
Harrison?
opening it up to see what was in it. They had to see.
But just you of them have reached a certain point. Oh, I see.
That's scary.
And now you get to work on it. To work on it.
That's the way it is most of it.
You need iron balls. That's the iron.
Trying to get some,
You put some-
it's hard to find good people.
you put it in this, a bunch of them like that. Yeah.
I'm out. I'm out.
I'm already riding around, I might as well. I might as well get a badge.
What'd you say?
I know.
I was telling her that was a trip hazard.
He said, he
I was
said,
wondering why the court
you
would
ain't got
come
this
around.
straight in
I was wondering where they could tuck
Yeah, he
it.
did. He did. He did.
Tuck it away.
He did. I ain't gonna know about it, Baba. Yeah, you know. You're gonna get that for you. What you move? No, that ain't no fish.
On the freaking road coast.
Yeah.
That was the wild man. Well, man, is everything.
Paragraph. The paragraph that you had the asterisk in your insert. In your story.
Did I show you that thing yesterday?
You had an asterisk, but you didn't put in.
I had
the
read it.
information.
No, I didn't do it right. Because I got to Friday. I had a lot to, I don't know how.
I don't know.
I'm so sure we do this too. That's all right.
Oh, I told Miss Wallace I saw her son. You know, he came on, again, after
She
she
told me it was aired again.
Yeah, and her husband.
When I looked at her, I just saw her.
Him, and he had to talk to him, and
They're gonna open up the,
then his father.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very different from what I thought he was. Anyway, she is, I don't know what that is. Must be a good man, because they've had, and they have Christmas. And one's dancing and one's in, and he's on the third. He said, when he interviewed him, one of the reasons he looked forward to having a good golf career.
You just came back from Florida. She got her hot stuff.
Hole after hole.
I missed the last one. I need to see those musicians play again.
I was at the elementary school, I'm so excited for us. The kids.
You know, I write this, but I don't ever look at it. I read it to get my ideas. Sometimes I don't write it. Most of the time.
Well, that's all right, that's all right.
I told them this year, it was rough, it was a rough year. This year was a rough year. Well, I knew this, the seventh grade, was coming, was coming.
I guess once you get to those students, they get to know you, it's a little bit easier.
But I Broken school. That's what they might be over there too. But hey, be over there too.
I have to do this. My drug now. They were my birthday. She told me I was going to go back. Well, you need to start after we lose it, man.
Me too.
About this. First, I said, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I said, you better bring me my case, 2 cases. He said, no, I'm going to do the job. I'm not a person, y'all folks understand.
Then you. You're willing to do it.
It's possible, Mom.
Yep.
I mean, you know, my uncle died. My mama died.
You must be established to come in here. You don't have to talk to us.
Oh, you know what, his wife, who is my brother, she did tell me, I said, she said, well, I had a little child, my mother,
It's a little while ago. Rather a while ago.
in other words, the young man,
You know what I told you all that, you know?
up-in-law's mother,
Amen.
my mother's sister. Anyway, she did tell me, oh, thank you, and she said, my mother said, I was very, very nice.
I need to call him again.
In case I might disagree with you, you told me, the only job you knew probably owns a school that needed a book. And I told her, not him, I told his wife. Mr. Kevin said that, the maybe a blah, 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 she said.
You hear about it also.
Here.
Was it appropriately titled?
You should put it in the door and get to know people. Everybody work that?
It's a check off.
Maybe I was before when I was a child. I don't understand that kind of thing.
Strict.
And I worked like a dog to make my way in this world.
I tell you what, what's on the night?
I guess I got parents
In the current system.
did for
In this new system. Oh, it's in the new system.
them.
Oh, and then we're going to do the ones for this year.
I had lost both my parents when I was young, and left, my mother left 10 children.
did a lot of, I was so happy to see someone out there, you know, it was practicing.
She was
Tell
killed.
boy about what's his name? Well, we always have to do it basketball.
She had 6 children, her last, and she had 4 before he came into her life.
Dark skin.
But he continued to contribute for a while.
Birds.
Yeah,
He
but
lived in the house with us because
I see him uptown riding
house
bicycle.
in town,
He's still
we
up
had a
bicycle.
farmhouse for us, and that's the way it is. But once my mother was gone, we rarely ever saw him. To this day, we have no idea when my mother died or when. So we talk about, that was a crash. So,
Yeah.
my late sister,
You in the doctor.
me was 5 and one of us was 7. So, struggled. When my granddaughter finished her first year in college, she was in San Diego. She got all A's. Her grandfather, my husband, was so impressed. And I had been teaching at USC for 14 years, and I can tell you, I knew that first year, the kids were
I know they say you're doing really good, but
was challenging. They were very proud. And my husband said, honey, just choose one. So she calls, no, she said right away, oh no, I know what I want, mommy. She said, I want you to buy a ticket for me to come and spend a week with you and grandma. I said, well, that's all can happen. Pretty girl. Come and talk to California. In the woods where I live. She said, my daddy's children are way better about it. I said, I really like it. And she said, you need to know, that's my first year. I moved from one vibration like that. Back in those days, with no parents, they used to take class, just get from that. And she said, well, this is my first year in college. Do you both know what how do you do that? And she told me, she said, I told her, she said, oh, we talked to her, she had all these questions thought out. When we got through, she said, by the way, I'm just finished. Now, if I take around the rest of them, she says, it's that, let me tell you, that's what we tell you. When the short is like, about that, so I'm always, my cousin was telling me, really in a job, and I said,
That's what he does, everybody.
I said that. She said that. I want to talk to her. No, I don't think he went down.
Remember that teacher that was on with them,
And he had
those
those
all done the other officers.
He should come up my way.
And I think you when there was all the officers back then. It was one of
You're
them.
good listening, Kevin. Well, that's all the truth. I am sorry. I am sorry, but I wish it was not father died or where it is. I am sorry. The situation is very and I'm also sorry, he had 5 children by his wife that he'd been married to before my mother. He had left her in North Carolina and moved to South Carolina, and that's where he got there, and they had to tie up my they're all after I retired, I moved back down here in 1990. I wish then, these days, I wish I could try to change so much. Because people change, you know, circumstances and stuff. I just would like to have, never one of them is just status. What are your memories of it? Just, I don't know, just talk. But I didn't, and since I'm 82, and my baby sister's 79, and you know, and this was a few years, he had these children with his wife, a few years before my mother came in his life, but you know, they either 100 or 95 or they're not all gone. Now, when I'm thinking about it, I wish I had two things. I wish the man who killed my mother was given, she was murdered, was given life in prison. And he came out about 5 years ago, he didn't live long, he must have known he was gone. He's been in there for 40 years or something, I don't know how long. And I wish I had gone to him to say, to ask him, well, what did you do? He was, I'm telling you all this crap. He was fond of women. My aunt, Jane tried to tell me. And put it in a great big three-story house and 200 acres of land, and, you know, she had nothing. Well, she lived with that. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. When I told my granddaughter, she was asking me questions, and she would ask, she was very, very intelligent, very well spoken. Matter of fact, she's been out of college now 2 years, and I talked to her mother today. The mother's like another child to me, my son's wife. And she called me, she said, Mom, I was thinking about you, and I haven't told you about them. And I said, how's my Natalie? They still live in San Diego, Natalie took a job in San Francisco. She said, Natalie's on the news. I said, that's the second one. They keep watching her. The job she left, listen to this. Told her, once she goes to this new job, which she's already started, 6 months from now, she'll find that she wants to further be back with them, just let them know she'll be welcome when I get her back. She tells me something. I'm as smart as you are. I'm not as wise as you are. Get some more years. It takes years to get wisdom.
It does.
Yeah, but I'll never forget that week. She would not let me take her to the movies. Would not let me take her shopping. She would say, I just want to hear about your early life. My grandfather's life. Very common, nice parents, nice homes in Philadelphia. No, nothing challenging. She wanted to give us money. And she had all these questions she wanted to know. She and I talked. In the end, it was time to go back to California. One day when I had a family, my brother had a family, they don't need to know about it. That's true.
But I'll talk to him again. We'll talk to him.
Okay, okay. There you go.
I like your welcome sign on the door. That was your hand. How did I know?
ready for us? Love you, Dr. Mason.
I love you too.
We miss you, Dr. Lisa.
And you're sitting next to my cousin, you know.
She said you sit next to her cousin.
Oh. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
All right, looks like all has made it back out. All right, this time the chair will entertain a motion to exit executive session.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we exit executive session, which no action to be taken.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. McDaniel. Been motion by Ms. Harrison, seconded by Ms. McDaniel to exit executive session. All those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. 7-0. Thank you. Again, welcome all of you for the July meeting. I have finally yielded and gone to the dollar store and bought me some glasses so I can read this iPad. So maybe I'll stay a little better on task this go around. All right. I believe I will turn it over to Ms. Harrison for the Pledge of Allegiance vote of silence.
Let us all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence. Thank you.
At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve the agenda as presented, provided I get a second.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second it.
Thank you, sir. It's been motioned by Ms. Harrison. It's been seconded by Mr. Miller to approve this evening's agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. 7-0. Thank you. Public comment.
Mr. Chair, we have one public comment. Dr. Janet Mason, developing a great 2018-2019 school year. 5 minutes, Dr. Mason. I know you're my cousin.
Now, I haven't been here for a couple of meetings. Don't I
We
get those
discussed it. We
signed?
can't do it. I'm sorry. We talked about it.
You make a
You did.
Mr. Chair, I would like to give her some of my time.
Exactly. Started. Go ahead, Dr.
My friends out here and my friends on the board. First, I want us to do something that I make a special request for. I want to thank Ms. Annie McDaniel for, is it either 17 or 18 years? How long has it been, Annie? 18 years on the board. I'd like us to give her a round of applause. That's a long time. God bless you. Also, I want to wish you well in your new position. Go down there and teach some folks some things. I know you will. God bless you, and keep us informed on what if you need some backup, let me know.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, folks, pardon me? It's not being recorded, is it? Okay, you know I don't care. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start the 2018-19 school year. Now, all of us should make up our mind right here and now that we're going to make this an even better year than we've had before for the benefit of our wonderful children. Now, in order to do that, all of us, people on the board especially, you have to stay very dedicated. And in doing so, you have to be in great support of our superintendent. We must make up our mind that in every way you can, and you know how, many of you do know how, if you don't learn, we're going to support the curriculum and instruction, all of the things that we need to do in order that our children will continue to be, notice I'm saying will be, but will become, but will continue to be the best learning examples in the state, in the country really. And all of the things that we're doing well now, somebody asked me just recently, how are the arts in Fairfield County? I said, boy, are you asking the right person. And I
I'm writing my life story at the insistence of my granddaughter. And so in it, I talked about when I came back here, there were no dance, very little, right Annie?
That's right.
Very little of all the arts. And to my absolute surprise and the blessing of this fine man over here, we are now one of the best in the state in the arts. And you do know, folks, that children who are exposed to the arts are at least 10% better in the academics than the children who are not. I know you've heard me say that before, but it's worth repeating. So let's continue to support, and that means when the children are doing a concert or performance of some kind, go see it. Congratulate them. Congratulate the teachers. I'm at a senior village now, a senior class for people 65 and over. I hate to have to admit that. And we do exercises. And so they got bored, and I said, well, let's do some little dancing. And they went, yeah, to Rockin' Robin. So I got up and I started teaching them some dance steps. Well, now we're getting ready to do a concert. These folks are 65 to 85. Now, when I'm going to speak to Melissa at the high school, and when she gets ready to do her concert, I'm going to say, I have something real special to put in your concert. These senior citizens, and they absolutely love it. So folks, now if that doesn't tempt you to come, I don't know what will. Please support your children, your neighbor's children, the superintendent, the principals, and do your best to continue to make this our finest school district, not only in the state, but why not the whole country? We can do that. Don't you believe that, people?
Oh, yes.
Yes, indeed. God bless you all. Have a good year.
Thank you, Dr. Mason. Good to see you back.
Thank you.
We
Well,
miss
you know, I'm back because it's doesn't get dark until 9 o'clock. So if you folks talk after 8:30, I'm out of here.
Does that conclude public comment?
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Recognitions and presentations.
Okay, Congratulations.
Of course, people think we go to conferences and it's just all fun and games, and I go off and play golf, except it seems to rain every time, so I don't ever get to go play golf. And if you ever saw me play golf, you'd know I don't get a whole lot of practice in. So, but it is a whole lot of work, it's a lot of classes, it's really not vacation. And the School Board Association recognizes our folks who have attained different levels. They recognize all the way up to level 6. Mr. Miller, are you level 6 already?
Yes, sir.
I thought we had one level 6, which is you've done taken all the classes, you know all there is to do about school governance in the state of South Carolina. So we're very proud to have Mr. Miller doing that, but some other folks who are progressing on their way.
Excuse me.
Are you level 6 as well? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh,
Level 7, wasn't it? Again, I thought they retired your jersey. Is what happened.
you know, they are in the process. They told me I couldn't come back.
I do apologize, the oversight, I do apologize. But we do want to recognize we have 3 members who have advanced this year. I don't have the certificate and pins, but I suppose they'll be here at some other time, or they'll make sure they get it to you. But we do want to recognize Miss Sylvia Harrison, who has attained level 3, and she will be receiving a certificate and a gold pin. Congratulations. This is one who makes sure I always go to class if I'm standing in the hallway. So she has earned her level 3. Reverend Carl Jackson has attained level 4. And Miss Paula Hartman has attained level 5. So she is on her way to claiming Miss McDaniel's retired jersey, I think. I don't know. Congratulations to you all. And I think, do we have anybody else? That's all for recognition and presentation. Next on the agenda is board minutes. Chair will entertain a motion in regards to the board minutes for the June 5th, 2018 meeting.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
make a motion, we accept the superintendent recommendation for the board approve the minutes from the June 5th regular call. Providing I get a second.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. It has been motioned by Ms. Harrison, it's been seconded by Mr. Davis to approve the board minute meetings from the June 5th, 2018 meeting. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving indicate by raising your right hand. That's 5 negative. 1 in the negative, abstention. 1 abstention. Thank you. All right, next, superintendent's report.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I am very excited to announce that on Friday, July the 27th, we will have a celebration in which we name and dedicate the McCoy-Liston cafeteria after a Miss Virginia Griffin Wilson. That came to the board several months ago. It is going through the process. The committee has agreed with the recommendation, and so therefore the dedication ceremony will occur on the 27th at 4:00 p.m. At McCoy-Liston School of Technology. Ms. Wilson served as the cafeteria manager for many, many, many years. You know, ironically, when I was an assistant principal at Kenan High School, Dr. Steve Wilson was the principal, so he and I worked together over the course of 6 years. And he and I would often discuss leaving Kenan to go to McCoy-Liston just to get lunch. All right, so that tells you something about how good the lunch would be when his mother was there. And so that's a very exciting opportunity. I look forward to everyone who is able to joining us on the 27th at 4:00. Any questions? Okay. Also, we've had a request to identify.
Mr. Chair, I thought you just were saying, did we receive the request for Kevin?
And so I have received some correspondence. Actually, I received it, Ms. McDaniel, when I was in Louisville this past Friday. The request to rename the cafeteria at Kelly Mill as well. And so I present that information in August. Okay.
Probably should get ready for the meeting too.
Okay. So one's coming for Gigi as well. All right. All right. So yeah, we do have another request that'll come in August. We have a request to identify a date for the intergovernmental meeting. It is our turn to host. And so apparently the meeting should occur in September. So we need to identify a date in September that we will host an intergovernmental meeting. Is there a recommendation?
What date we used to have it on?
I'll be honest, I can't recall what dates. It seems like it's usually a Monday.
Monday, I think it's last time it was on.
So looking at the, yeah, I would say the 3rd is probably Labor Day, I suspect. So that would be the 10th or the 17th. I am going to be at a conference on the 24th, but y'all have to schedule around me. I hate to miss my own meeting, but y'all, if that date works best for everybody else, that's fine. But
Mr. Chair,
Does anybody?
apparently the 10th is Rosh Hashanah, so I don't know that it's going to affect. That
What
appears
day of the week was
nobody's-
the last one?
Ma'am, I'm
What day
sorry.
of the week was the last one?
I think it was a Monday. You talking about the last meeting we just went to?
Right.
I'm pretty sure it was a Monday, wasn't it?
I think so.
That probably suits everybody as far as the people that come, as far as the different entities.
Long as it doesn't interfere with the county council meeting, because don't they do the second and fourth
Yeah,
Monday?
24th, we be on the 4th.
When y'all
That's
next
the
meeting?
4th Monday.
Oh, Neil.
I think it is 10.
Okay,
17th.
17th is good.
That's
All
our.
right. Now, we got a meeting on the 18th, so just,
Let's see,
our regularly scheduled September meeting is on the 18th. If that makes makes any difference to anybody. I mean, I don't know why it would, but, all right. 17 sounds pretty good to everybody?
17.
What is the cube come? Dr. Green, you want that?
Say again?
Cube.
Cube?
You know where that come?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Oh.
All right, the next thing I'd like to share with you, we are in the process of redesigning our website. So we are establishing a new domain, and so the new domain will be fairfield1.org. And a couple of things really led to that. The state did some evaluations of websites. I think this was really spurred by maybe some federal conversations about whether school websites really met all, I don't know if I'm gonna say ADA requirements, but maybe ADA requirements is exactly what I'm talking about. For example, your website should be able to accommodate individuals who may have learning impairments, which is obviously something that our website does not accommodate. So we have launched into an initiative to really redesign our website where it really has some additional components. As a function of that, we're going to move to a new domain. So our new domain name will be fairfield1.org. We hope that this is complete by August 1st, which is within another week or so. So be on the lookout for that. In addition, we are revising our email and calendar platform and moving to a Gmail system. Obviously we aren't, I won't say we, I can say I'm not all that excited because I've given out so many cards and told people what my email address is, and so now we get a new email address, and so I'm going to give this information out to a whole lot of people. But the system will redirect your emails over the course of, I think, about a year or so, where even if they email your old email address, it'll come to your new email address. But in the district currently, we have two different email accounts. One is a Chromebook account, one is our Fairfield.K12.sc.us account. And I can tell you it has really caused some problems for me because I've had people who email me to my Chromebook account, but which I never check. I mean, so sometimes I go months without checking my Chromebook account. But now we're going to collaborate, and all of those are going to fall under one Gmail account. So I think Ms. Brown has provided some information to board members where the Director of Technology is going to set up something where you can start transitioning you to the new Gmail account. Okay. In addition, since we're in the spirit of revising things, we are going to explore the revision of our district logo. And quite honestly, this was not something that was on my radar, but I had a staff member to come to me and say, we are doing so many great things in the district. I think it would be a good idea if we really looked at doing a revision to the logo. So what I think we're going to do is to do another logo competition similar to what we did about 5 years ago. And just to refresh your memory, what we did is we just sent out a request to all faculty and staff members across the district. We sent out a request to all students, and we asked them to submit your proposal for what would be the ideal Fairfield County School District logo. And so several people submitted proposals, and then we put it up for a vote. Everyone had an opportunity to vote on it, and that's how we selected the current logo. So the current logo will likely be in the list of options, but we just want to see whether there are any other thoughts out there in terms of how we may be able to create a different logo that better fits the mission of the Fairfield County School District. And so board members, you're more than welcome to submit your recommendations as well. All right.
Is there an issue, Mr. Chair, is there an issue, Dr. Green, with opening it up to the community?
No, and so the community as well. So at that time, we opened it up to everyone. I mean, community members who have submitted recommendations, faculty, staff, absolutely, we like everyone to participate. All right, any questions? All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I apologize about the record. Listen, we do have it on the 10th. We do have council on the 10th.
Okay, all right, good deal. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, so I forgot, it makes sense over here as well. So, yeah, so now I'll move on to the salary presentation. During the last meeting, the board instructed me to present an option where all employees will make a minimum of $20,000. I have submitted that proposal based on your instructions. And the difficulty, as I expressed during the last meeting, is when you don't necessarily look at annual salary, but you look at, when you don't look at hourly salary, but you look at annual salary, it makes it very difficult to compare employee salaries, because you have some employees that are working 8 hours a day for 250 days a year, where you have some employees who are working 7 or 8 hours a day for 190 days a year. So in many respects, you're kind of comparing apples and oranges if you're looking at an annual salary when you're comparing an employee who works for 260 days to an employee that works 190 days. And so I have made the revisions based on your request. And as you see, there were 3 employment categories that were affected. Scale 1010, scale 1030, and scale 2020. Okay. Also in your board docs, you will have a list of occupations that fall under those respective categories. And then you can see who falls under 1010, 1030, and 2020. Now, probably one of the first things that jumps out at you is, now, based on this proposal, at 0 years, 1010 goes from 1067 an hour to 1545 an hour, which is considerably above 1020. So 1020 only at 0 years makes 1146 an hour. So the question would be, well, why would 1020 go from 1067 to 1545, yet 1020 would remain unchanged? And so the difference there is the employees who work under category 1020 generally work between 245 and 260 days a year, versus the employees who work under the 1010 category, who generally work 185 days a year.
Can you repeat that again, Dr. Booth?
Okay, so employees under the 1010 category, you note that in this proposal, Ms. McDaniel, their salary at 0 years experience will go from 1067 to 1545. Employees under 1020 category virtually goes unchanged, because those employees are already making over $20,000, which is the threshold that you asked me to address. The reason that they are making an annual salary greater than the employees in the 1010 category is employees in the 1010 category are only working 185 days a year, whereas the employees in the 1020 category are working between 245 and 260 days a year. So in essence, we are comparing apples and oranges, for lack of a better word, when we start comparing the annual salaries of those employees.
Well, I think if you, Mr. Chair,
Jordan.
when the request was made, the initial request was that we just look at what was going on. And at the time that I raised the question, there was a conversation about increasing the salaries. But I think we would know that if we increase the hourly rate on one, we would have to increase hourly rate on another. And addressing the I don't want to use the word confusion, but the concern with people and the number of days they work, that's the same argument that we have with teachers. And teachers being paid a certain salary when they're on the schedule of 190 days versus being on the schedule of 245 days as 260 really, because most people outside the school districts work 260 days a year. But the request was to look at different options. So if I'm hearing you correctly, the option that you're choosing to bring to us is the option where you would just change the salary schedule, not give them more hours by giving them additional duties.
And so what I would say, Ms. McDaniel, from my professional opinion, that is the only option. For example, and you use cafeteria workers as an example. So cafeteria workers generally work about 185 days a year. We do have some cafeteria workers who work during the summer, if they work one of our summer school sites. And generally we have about 2 summer school sites every summer. The only way you can ensure that there is no employee in the district that makes less than $20,000 is to increase the hourly rate, because it's not feasible to say we're going to have every employee work 245 or 260 days. Because the question would be, what would they do for 245 or 260 days?
And that would have been for you to figure out. Now, we've had years past where the district have found additional duties for their 185 and 190 day individuals to bring their salary up. But I'm good. If you want to use the salary schedule and raise the salary schedule so that the individuals would have a livable wage, which is what we're talking about versus minimum wage, then, I mean, I'm good with it. But I just want to make sure that we understand that this is being done so that we can ensure that our folk are not making $13,000, $14,000 a year, which is what we discovered when we had the conversation at the last meeting. So with that being said, you're recommending this particular salary schedule?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
And so Ms. McDaniel, what I said when this request was made is, what I want to do is to bring back a proposal where we revise the entire salary schedule, not just employees who make under $20,000 a year. And this is the reason, Ms. McDaniel. Now, you said that, I should have known to make adjustments to 1020. Well, that was not the instruction given to me. The instruction was to bring a recommendation to modify the salary schedule where all employees make a minimum of $20,000 a year. The problem when you do that is there are unintended consequences. And so you're right. You modify the schedule or the hourly rate for the 1010 employee, but now the 1010 employee has to make $4 an hour more than the 1020 employee, simply as a function of the 1020 employee working 245 or 260 days a year. And so that is the problem when you make a modification kind of piecemeal like that. Let me say one other thing while I'm speaking to an issue with that. So when you look at 2020 and 2040, and so 2040 are paraprofessionals who have associate degrees. 2020 were paraprofessionals who do not have associate degrees. And so in order to bring paraprofessionals without associate degrees up to a minimum of $20,000 a year, you had in essence pay 2020 and 2040 almost the same rate.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes, ma'am.
You have the 2020 people based on their annual salary. Are these hourly people?
Who's that, 2020?
2020s.
No, salary.
So we're paying people a salary. Are we meeting the requirements of the Internal Revenue Service? Because $20,000 a salary. Most salary people are managers and supervisors.
All right. And so let's look at 2020.
How we justifying to being salaried people?
Okay.
Making $20,000 a year.
Let me go back and look at 2020.
You don't have no teacher making $20,000 a year.
Okay. So, Ms. McDaniel, 2020 would be instructional assistants, paraprofessionals, computer lab assistants, in-school suspension coordinator, library media assistant, parent liaison. And once again, I said this is the minimum salary. So once again, this is at 0
But
years.
these are not salaried. These are not salaried positions.
You have teacher in the middle of that as well.
They are salary positions. Are they not salary positions, Mr. Rollins? Because I'm looking at the salary schedule.
Ms. McDaniel, I think you're referring to whether they're exempt or non-exempt under Fair Labor Standards Act. The amount we have listed is $20,000 a year, but they are actually non-exempt employees. So they're treated as hourly and that they earn overtime. Now, we're saying a salary because it's listed, the pay is listed as a salary amount as opposed to an hourly amount, but they are in fact non-exempt, so considered hourly employees.
But when you look at the salary schedule, their pay should be shown based on hourly rate and not on the salary rate. Because they are hourly people.
So, Mr. McDaniel, what I would say is they are non-exempt employees. And
And that's
so,
fine, but the salary schedule should be reflected based on the hourly rate, not
Well-
not based on the annual rate.
and so let me just refresh the boards. Remember, this salary schedule was presented based on a study that was done prior to my arrival. So this wasn't something that JR did. I mean, this was based on a firm that the board hired to develop a salary schedule.
And I expressed concern when that salary schedule was done back then, but I thought after you first came, you looked at the salary schedule, you made some kind of modifications or adjustments.
So what I did is you did not implement the salary schedule in totality that was presented to the board. And so I presented that to be adopted in its totality.
When you first came?
When I first came, probably within a year or two. I can't remember exactly what it was, probably my second year.
But we need to fix this. These folk are hourly and we could get dinged if we're showing them as salaried individuals and they're not. And that way we can better compare what we are paying them if the true method in which we're paying them is reflected and they are considered hourly. They don't supervise anybody, they don't meet the requirements to be considered salaried employees. Now I understand exempt and non-exempt, but no.
So Ms. McDaniel, kind of from your understanding, who would qualify as a salary employee versus who would have to be qualified as an hourly employee?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, there's a list that you will go by that comes from the Fair Labor Standards, Labor Law and Regulations Board in Columbia, and also the Federal Labor Agency that you would check off and based on certain conditions. If the individual does not meet those conditions, they cannot be considered salaried.
And I think you're talking about exempt, non-exempt. So there are things you check off to determine whether you're exempt, non-exempt, not whether you're salary or hourly. But what I tell you, Ms. McDaniel, I'll be happy to get clarification from my attorneys. But I think what you're talking about is whether they're exempt or non-exempt. So in other words, someone can make $25,000 a year and receive a salary and still be a non-exempt employee. So what that means is, if they work overtime, that's not the same as a teacher working overtime.
But when you show their pay have to be showed on an hourly basis, and they cannot be exempt from receiving overtime. If they work overtime, they have to be paid overtime.
Well, so you and I are on the same page there about non-exempt. So we agree there. In terms of whether their salary has to be shown as hourly or whether it is a yearly salary, I will verify that with the attorney.
Yeah, if they're eligible for overtime, for overtime, it should be shown from the hourly. But anyway, getting back to the matter at hand. So what is the options? This is the only option that you're bringing for trying to get our people who make it $13,000, $14,000 go up to $13,000, $14,000.
And so once again, Ms. McDaniel, the only option, if you want to say, I want every employee to make a minimum of $20,000 a year, regardless of how many days they work, regardless if they work 260 days or they work 185 days, the only way to do that is to raise the hourly rate.
Or give them additional things to do so that they'll have more hours to work.
So Ms. McDaniel, you said I wanted every cafeteria worker to work 260 days a year. So you're saying that could be an option. I don't see how that's feasible. I don't know how you could develop it where you say, I'm gonna have every cafeteria worker work 245 or 260 days.
I told you last time, that's what you got HR staff for y'all to work it out and try to figure it out. But to just take and put a salary schedule together, I mean, it's almost like an insult, really. That I just brought it up because we recognize that we have people making $13,000, $14,000 a year. And ask that you and your staff come up with some options so that we do not have our staff making that kind of money and having to go to some agency for assistance. And they still may have to go, I don't know. But it shouldn't be because we have them working a full year, making $13,000, $14,000 a year.
So Ms. McDaniel, the board directed me to present an option.
Board directed, it's
Okay.
not that.
All right, so I presented an option. I told you from my professional expertise, the only way I see how you can do it is to increase the hourly rate. Maybe you have a better idea, Ms. McDaniel.
Oh,
You're a lot smarter than I am.
I'm micromanaging
Yeah,
you.
you're a lot smarter than I am. And so you tell me what's a better plan? I mean, the only way I know, if you have some employees who are working in the summer, some employees are only working during the school year, I don't see how else you can ensure that everyone makes a minimum
But John, the
salary.
concern was people who we have considered full-time employees, that's anybody working 7 hours a week, right? 7 hours a day.
7 hours a day.
7 hours a day.
Eligible for benefits.
Persons who working 7 hours a day, making benefits, and their annual salary is $13,000, $14,000 a year. Once you take retirement insurance, those folk are not bringing any money home.
And so once again, Ms. McDaniel, as I said,
I mean, I'm good with this.
okay, I brought the proposal back that the board has instructed me to bring. I want to go on the record once again saying I think it would be better if we revise the entire salary schedule, but obviously it's the board's decision how you want to move forward.
And I don't disagree, don't get me wrong, with revising the whole schedule.
Yeah.
But when you have people making 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $100,000 a year, and then you have people working 1 hour a day less, making 13, I'm just asking that we consider something so that those people can be brought up to a more livable wage versus what we're paying them. But if this is what you submitted, you asking us to vote on it or to take it home and review it and.
It's for information. I'm submitted, I asked you to clarify your request last time. You said you wanted some information. This is information.
But I asked for options, and we only got one. And
It's an option, Ms. McDaniel. You may not like the option, but that's an
I didn't
option.
say I didn't like it. I said it's a good option. I'd be ready to vote on it tonight.
Okay. Well, I mean, you keep saying there are no options presented. There's an option. I mean, we asked me to look at it. This is the option he presented.
So are we as a board,
This is for input.
as the board saying that we're okay and we just gonna leave this tonight, or we're gonna try to further review to see what we can do, or we're gonna wait 2 years down the road when we can get a salary study done, which is a waste of money? I mean, I won't be here, so y'all can figure it out.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just respond to Ms. McDaniel. Ms. McDaniel, I said during the last meeting, I am committed to bringing back a revision to the salary schedule to include all employees. And probably, this is one point that we really had discussed, what the board asked me to do doesn't include teachers at all. And so you've asked
We have
me.
any teachers making $13,000 a week?
But it didn't matter rather than making less than 13, but obviously, Ms. McDaniel, if we do a revision to the salary schedule, I would hope that the board would be concerned about addressing teacher salaries as well.
And I think we should and we will. But right now, we're talking about people living off $13,000, $14,000 a year. That is awful.
Ms. McDaniel, Ms. Hartman's been trying to get in. Can we let her have some?
Dr. Green, on 2020, you have it listed as teachers under there.
2020?
Yes, sir.
2020 are instructional assistant.
It says teachers.
What teacher assistant? Yeah, that's teacher assistant. Yeah.
So those are teacher assistants?
Teacher assistant, yeah, that's not teacher
Okay.
assistant.
Another thing I had questions on, you have like locksmiths. What do they actually, their position do?
Locksmith?
Right, as being employees.
Change
Yeah,
locks.
locksmith listed as,
Routine
as an
locks.
employee.
Pardon me?
You have a locksmith as an employee.
Yes.
What do they do? What's their position?
Change locks, rekey locks. What a locksmith does.
So approximately how many hours do they work?
Well, so Ms. Hartman, we don't, in this district, we don't have any dedicated employee who only does that. And so obviously we have people in maintenance that wear multiple hats.
Well, that's why I was asking.
Yeah,
if
they wear multiple hats, and so our district is not of a size where we can have someone who exclusively did that. But we do have people within the maintenance department who do work as locksmith to change the locks, doors, issues of that nature.
See, I saw one listed as locksmith, and then you have another one listed as locksmith with that dash carpenter. Just different things like that. That's why.
Yeah, so let me just say this.
What was their job description?
Yeah, so let me just kind of say it this way, Ms. McDaniel, Ms. Hart. So when we develop a salary schedule, it doesn't necessarily mean that we employ people in every position on the schedule. And so what you do is you try to determine all the positions that you might ultimately have. So you don't necessarily have to add positions every time there's a change. And so there's not necessarily someone who falls into every single category that we find in the salary schedule, if you understand what I'm saying. So just because you see a locksmith there doesn't necessarily mean that we have a dedicated person who only works as a locksmith. It's very possible that we could at some point in time, maybe the district grows and we're 50,000 or 60,000 kids, and then we may have someone who spends all day long working on locks. But right now, we are in a situation where we can have someone who does that exclusively.
I sort of thought, like I said, something like that would probably be just under maintenance, right? Like you're saying, they do numerous different things, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I want to see Dr. Green bring an option back where everybody is considered to get a raise. I do like the fact that the supporting staff need a bigger raise, but I would like to see the option for everybody, not to exclude the teachers or anybody, because they all deserve a raise. So if he can bring another option back that he was working on, you know, so we can all come to an agreement.
And Mr. Chair, let me say one thing. I've been talking about this revision to the salary schedule for several months now. And it is going to be a monumental task. I'm so disappointed that Mr. Daniel potentially may be leaving, but I'm looking forward to his support. When I bring this revision to the salary schedule, it very well may require some very difficult decisions. And so I'm glad everyone is on board with the revision to our entire salary schedule, even if it was up to $1 million. Oh, everybody isn't concerned with that part, but okay.
No, because I know that there are other options that we can utilize, and for us to take lightly, people who make $13,000, $14,000 a year, I think is that's not fun. And I don't think we should minimize it. That is not fun. So, Dr. Green, is there anything that you can try to do for those people with this upcoming year so that they can at least make more hours so they can take on more than $14,000 a year? I mean, that just brings me heartbreak.
We don't have any positions that maybe aren't filled yet, that maybe somebody else can do that job and make more hours.
The issue is not necessarily, Ms. Hartman, so the issue is not making more hours during the day. The issue is you have some employees who are working 260 days a year versus 190 or 185 days a year. So, for example, the cafeteria staff, other than the people who are working summer school, they work when school is in session, a few days before, maybe a few days after, but once students go home, they are employed as cafeteria staff because obviously there are no students other than summer school students to provide lunches to. I understand what Mr. McDaniel is saying, but it's not a function of giving them more hours during the day. What would have to happen is you'd have to figure out how you would allow those people to work all year long, even when school is not in session.
So there's no position, like I'm saying, that maybe have not been filled, but they could maybe do during the summer to make it extra time. Extra money throughout the year.
As I have said,
That's something that you have to look at. We don't know.
well, Mr. McDaniel obviously didn't like my proposal. I told Mr. McDaniel, based on my professional expertise, the only way to ensure that is to raise the hourly rate. There's no way I can see how I can ensure every employee works a minimum of 245, 260 days a year.
Mr. Chair, let me make sure Dr.
Mr. Miller, he hadn't had an opportunity to speak yet.
Yeah, but I need to correct this one because he just stated that I didn't like his proposal. That's not true. I like the proposal bringing hourly scope up to $20,000 a year. So I do like your proposal, even though you got them all over the place. But if they make at least $20,000 a year, then I'm good. So it's not that I don't like it.
Ms. Miller.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think that everybody needs some help. I put it that way. And so, whether it's our cafeteria workers, I'm going to put that on you, Doc. If they're working 6.5 hours a day, if there's any way we can add some hours, hour or hour and a half to that, then that's, you know, I'm with that. But we need you to bring your ultimate salary study back to this board. You know, I ain't talking about, it ain't no quick fix. It's got to be straight. It got to be done right. And so it ain't something you can throw against the wall. It's got to be done right. It's going to take some time. But that's your task, is to bring it back to this board, you know, by, you know, the coming year, because we done already started on this year. And so we got to get it right, you know. I understand the difference in the salary, the cafeteria workers, and there is some people on the lower the pole. But we need to bring that back to the board.
Mr. Chair, let me just say one thing. I want to respond to Ms. McDaniel as it relates to why I think it's a better option to revise the entire schedule versus just some individual categories. You know, one thing that obviously jumps out at you is custodians fall under category 1020. Okay, and so custodians based on the current salary schedule would start at 0 years experience for $11.46. Based on the proposal that the board asked me to present, now the cafeteria workers would have to make $15.45 at 0 years, which is $4 more than the custodians make. Now, in essence, we're saying custodians, you don't need a salary increase because you're working 245 or 260 days a year. And I don't necessarily agree with that, is what I'm saying. I think everyone should be evaluated, and we should look at revising the entire salary schedule, because whether you're working 245 or 260, obviously I think you should deserve some consideration. So that's why, Ms. McDaniel, I am a proponent of revising the entire schedule versus just specific ones.
But Mr. Chair.
Yeah, can I get Reverend Jackson?
Yeah.
He was trying.
Yeah, go ahead.
What bothers me with this whole thing is I would feel awful if I were a custodian and I found out that I'm doing my job and everything is going great, and then I find out that the cafeteria workers have been raised $4 or $5 more an hour than I'm making, then that's going to make me feel real bad and want to know what's going on. I understand trying to equalize things, but trying to equalize it on the back of somebody else is just not right. I think that we need to look at it across the board like you proposed, and everybody will understand that if you only work 180 days as opposed to 260 days, that 180 day salaried employee is going to be less.
Yes.
It's going to be less, it's got to be less. And that's, I mean, I just have a problem. I understand the concern about the amount of money that folk are making, but I also understand the concern of trying to fix it on the backs of somebody else.
May I now?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Reverend Jackson, with all due respect, this salary schedule is what Dr. Green chose to bring to us, and he chose to mix up the hourly rates in that fashion. You know, you know as well as I know that if you're going to bring a salary schedule and you're going to put the hourly rates in, that you need to make sure the hourly rates are consistent with the job. And many school districts, including this one, have before looked at the exempt people's salaries and done a salary schedule, because they have a different salary schedule than your hourly people. You can look at your hourly staff salary schedule, and it doesn't have to just be cafeteria workers. We just happened to look at a cafeteria worker that night and saw what the cafeteria worker was making. I don't know what everybody in the district makes, but there is nothing that precludes you from looking at your salary schedule for your hourly people and looking at what you pay your non-hourly people and giving an increase to your hourly people and just increase your hourly staff salary schedule. And it still would not bring them near where you're exempting your salaried people are. And your salaried people, I would venture to say, and then maybe they would be, I would not be upset if you took an employee who's making $15,000, $16,000 a year and brought them up if I'm making 50 or more. I wouldn't be that selfish.
But Mr. Renee, we aren't even talking about salary employee. I mean, just as Pastor Jackson said, I'm talking about just comparing hourly employees. So just looking at the custodian who's a 1020 employee who's making $11.46, and we aren't going to increase his salary just because he works 245 or 260 days a year.
Who said you wouldn't increase
Okay, but wait a minute, Mr. McDaniel. Now let's be clear about what the board instructed you to do. Okay, the board clearly said, we want you to bring back proposals that would result in no employee making less than $20,000
Dr.
a
Green,
year.
but we asked you to bring us back these options. And again, I take exception with us not understanding that the concern here is a livable wage for employees. Now, because it was not implemented or taken in the spirit in which it was asked to be done, I don't think it's fair for you to now sit here and say, well, the board directed me. No, we asked you to look at options. It was up to you to take your professional judgment with the professional judgment of your staff and say, even though this may be what you guys said, this is what will work for the district. This is what would help those individuals out. When we bring salary people in and we get ready to pay them, we look at something and we pluck some salary out that we're going to give them if they are salaried individuals. Only thing I'm saying is, if we have a salary schedule, the salary schedule should reflect the hourly rate for every hourly person, which is anybody who gets paid time and a half overtime, or weighted average, or however you do it here in this district. That salary schedule would strictly be for hourly people. And there is no reason we could not look at an hourly salary schedule and say, okay, this is what we can do, even if you couldn't come to the 20 and you came close to something on it. My initial concern was the fact that we had people making 13, but because we got pressed, I threw a motion on the floor to give you something to start with and something to work with, hoping and praying that you would take the serious consideration of it. And the fact that we have people who are making that little bit of money, working as hard as they work, something that will help those individuals out. And again, please do not minimize and belittle the fact that I'm concerned about livable wages. Please don't do that.
Well, Ms. McDaniel, as I said, I did exactly what the board instructed me to do.
But you was asked to look at options, which would be more than one.
Yeah, what the board instructed me to do, Ms. McDaniel, was to bring back options where all employees make a minimum of $20,000 a year. That's what the board instructed me to do.
She asked for.
No, ma'am, that was the motion. It was voted upon. I asked Ms. McDaniel to clarify. The motion was to bring back options to make sure no employees made less than $20,000 a year. I clarified. She said she wasn't asking it really to be an action item. She wanted it to be just options. That is what has been presented.
The concern was the sensitivity and the compassion for people making $13,000, $14,000 a year. Now, whether I asked for a horse riding a donkey or a monkey jumping upside down, what we expected, what I expected.
Ms. McDaniel, you made a motion, the board approved it.
Can I finish?
Well, but you're not making a point.
The concern, that's what the concern was. So for you guys not to take the seriousness of the concern, I can't even come with the word for it. I can't. Only thing I'm asking is for us to try to do something to a group of people that we know are making salaries that we can live off, we wouldn't want to live off. And I know some people might say, well, that's what they chose, but they didn't get an education or whatever. But this district can afford to do better by our people.
And you started that conversation, and we appreciate that very much. But I do agree that we need to have a comprehensive look at everybody, not just the minimal area that you asked in your motion for us to look at. And that's what this proposal addresses.
That excludes us from just looking at our people.
Nothing.
This is what you moved. This is what you asked for, Mr.
So if
McDaniel.
he's saying there's nothing that precludes us from looking at hourly people, why we can't do that?
Because when I asked you what your motion was, this is what you said.
Okay, forget the motion.
So, Mr. Frick,
That's how we take action, Mr. McDaniel. I mean, we made the motion, it voted. I was the one who voted in negative, you and Ms. Hart,
You know,
Marvin were
Mr.
the
Frick,
positive.
normally we have a tape in board docs that reflects the full conversation. For some reason, I didn't see that tape in there today to see exactly what that motion was.
So, Mr. McDaniel.
I mean, you're gonna insinuate I'm part of some conspiracy now, Ms. McDaniel?
All I said was
All
the
right,
tape was not there.
we've discussed the matter. I have not seen any further action on this, so if everyone else has spoken, we will move on.
Ask another question if I could, please. The positions that we currently have throughout the district, the ones that are making low amounts, or even if they're not making low amounts, is there any positions or, are there positions that are unneeded and maybe some that are needed? To look at possibilities of possibly helping this situation also.
So a couple of things. First of all, I guess I'm a little perplexed, and I'm gonna get to your question, but I just want to respond before I get to that, Ms. Hartman. That the board instructed me to do something. I did what the board instructed me to do, but then I hear I should have done something else. So no, I did clearly what the board instructed me to do. Secondly, Ms. Hartman, the issue is if you have employees who are working 185 days a year, even if they make $12, $13, $14 an hour, it's not going to equate to $100,000 to $20,000 a year. The only way, as I was instructed to do, is to ensure that every employee makes a minimum of $20,000 a year, regardless of how many days they work. You're going to do one or two things. You can say, well, I'll make sure that nobody works 185 days, that everybody works 245 or 260 days a year, or you can increase the hourly rate. Those are the only two options. You can increase the hourly rate, or you can ensure that people work all year long. Those are the only options. Now, I don't see any feasible way you can ensure that every employee in the district works all year long.
Dr. Green, that was never said. And I am saddened by the fact that you,
So it's going between.
I am saddened by the fact that you've taken this whole situation out of context. I'm really sad that you've done that. But Mr. Chairman, is there any way we can have and see what the salary schedule looks like if it was extended out for all the hourly people with the increase in it?
Ms. McDaniel, the superintendent acted on what you requested.
And you know what? When is that tape going to be ready for us to review? Because you guys knew what the conversation was. And to now...
Are you saying my memory is not as good as yours, Ms. McDaniel? Is that what you're telling me?
It may not be. I didn't say what my memory was. I said that normally we have a tape that states exactly what we've discussed. And for this particular one, we didn't have the tape.
Okay, we've had enough discussion on this matter. It's just for informational purposes. We're going to move
My
on.
question was for him to extend the hourly rate.
Thank you, Ms. McDaniel.
Is
All
there a
right,
problem with that being done?
next on the superintendent's report.
Oh, so we just go end it just like that?
Ms. McDaniel, we've had the discussion. You can call me whatever names you're going to call me, because I know you are.
No, you don't know me, Mr. Frick, because I'm stood to that level. You what God made you, not what I want you to be.
It was the previous chair, Ms. McDaniel, so it's not going to start there.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, also in board docs, you have information from Mid-State Institute. They came before the board earlier, probably about a month or so ago, requesting usage of the Go Honesty Academy facility. As you see, they're looking to have a business incubator initiative in addition to ultimately having some vocational training. So they are reaffirming their desire to utilize Go Honesty Academy to implement those programs. So I submit that to you for your information.
Question, have they come up with a solid plan that they are proposing to do, or are you continuing to explore this, and this is just additional information as to where we are?
Well, so this is where we are at this point in time, Mr. Frick. I mean, obviously, it's been revised and changed. So I will say to you, at this point in time, this is where we are with their proposal.
Any discussion on this? Again, I think this is an informational thing, but, yes ma'am, Ms. Hart.
I'd like to ask if,
Use your mic over there. I think I forgot to tell you that earlier.
we initially, when we built the new career center, we made reference to, again, going back to possibility of bringing night classes in like we used to. If this doesn't go through, that sounds a little bit similar to that of what these people were talking about. Have we thought again about doing something like that with our school?
It's a very good idea, Ms. Hartman. Again, we've had some conversations with some of our instructors about doing some night classes. At this point in time, we've not moved forward with implementing those. Part of the issue, quite frankly, is getting a commitment from teachers who work all day long, then come back and teach night classes as well. And that's a pretty substantial commitment for teachers to make. But I've had a few who said they may be interested in doing that. But as you can imagine, that would be a pretty long day if you had to teach students all day long and then come at night to teach adults.
Well, I agree, but is there a possibility of having other teachers come in to do that specifically? That would help children that have graduated and adults in the county.
Yeah. And that's something I'm open to.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, these individuals have been to us twice. So in reading this, I mean, I know you say this for information, but is there some likelihood that something is going to come out of this, or is it just?
I know Dr. Green has had several meetings with the folks, and I have spoken with folks as well, not necessarily an official meeting, but just conversation. I want to, two concerns that I had personally that I've addressed with Dr. Green about this is one, I don't want to make Midlands Tech mad for us offering anything that these folks could be offering, and I think the plan is possibly being winnowed down to make sure that that doesn't happen. Okay, that's one of my chief concerns because we have an excellent partner in Midlands Tech, and I do not want to do anything to upset that. I think we're getting to that point. I think he's continuing to have conversations to make sure that we have a solid plan. I don't want to see our district get into anything that is not a solid plan. So I know that they're still working on it. I know Dr. Green's still having conversation. I'm not trying to speak for him on it, but I mean, I know.
But if they're saying business incubator, isn't that where businesses actually come in and locate and you get hands-on training? We don't have that kind of relationship with Midlands Tech.
We don't, and I agree. What they talked about in this is in the previous presentations, they talked about a whole lot of technical training. In this, I think they're talking about airline training and the business incubator like you're talking about. I think my concern would be I haven't seen anything that kind of fleshes out that idea other than saying this is what we want to do.
But are they asking us for space, or are they asking us to use, I mean, what are they trying to accomplish?
So Mr. Daniel, they are requesting space. I think in the proposal, they indicated they wanted to use maybe an office space and a classroom or 2 classrooms.
And the reason, Doc, I'm asking about the space is because they were at county council meeting, and they was also asking county council about space. So, do we know? Are they asking both of us for the same thing? Do you know, or you're not sure?
To my understanding, county council has not entered into any agreement to provide them space, and therefore they're making the request of the district.
Okay. But they do realize that should be industrial park if it's going to be an incubator, right?
Well, and so, I mean, that's a very good point, Ms. McDaniel. Obviously, if you don't have any space, then any space would be good space. And so right now, that would be ideal if they were in an industrial park, but since they don't have an industrial park, they're just trying to find some place to locate.
You good?
So nothing, are they coming back, or are they giving up, or are they, I mean, what are they expecting? expectations.
No, I think they still plan on going forward. We're just hoping that maybe they can flesh it out a little bit more. At least that's what I have asked.
Before they come back to us.
All right. I think that concludes you there. doesn't it?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Nothing on curriculum instruction, it appears. Operations finance.
Good evening. First item on the operations and finance is the June 2018 finance report for board review. It is not the final report. We still will need quite a while to close out the books for the 17-18 fiscal year, but this is a preliminary report.
Anybody have any questions on the June finance report?
So do we have a projected fund balance? Not fund balance, but amount going back to the fund balance.
Right now, just I'd say tentatively probably about $2 billion.
But we still have several things to close out before we can finalize that.
Correct.
But it's looking pretty good though. Correct? You know I try to be optimistic on this point.
No, you're trying to be the witness.
Yes, ma'am, you are correct. I am trying to lead the witness on
He told
that.
you
You're
to.
absolutely correct. That was a very, very leading question. Objection noted. All right. Seeing no further questions, next on Operation Fund.
The second item is general obligation bond resolution, and the superintendent recommends approval of a general obligation bond resolution that authorizes the district to borrow an amount not to exceed $2.2 million. There is a capital projects list included with the resolution, and the bond, if approved, would be paid off within 1 year. It would not result in an increase in the debt millage that we've had for the previous years. It would still remain at 20.6 mils.
Okay, I do anticipate some discussion on this, but so we can do that, can we get a motion regarding the bond?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
next that we accept the superintendent's recommendation, approval of general obligation bond resolution authorized to the district to borrow amount not to exceed $2.2 million. Providing a second.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I second.
Thank you. It has been motioned by Mr. Miller. It has been seconded by Reverend Jackson to accept superintendent's recommendation of a general obligation bond authorizing the district to borrow an amount not to exceed $2.2 million. Ms. Hart.
Dr. Green, can you tell me how, what long-term financial arrangements do we currently have on the books?
I will follow your question. You mean long-term financial arrangements?
Long-term finance, you know, what we have right now as far as any loans outstanding or anything. Can you give me a better understanding of that currently?
Well, so the current debt millage is at 20.2, I think, is what Ms. Robinson said.
0.6.
Yeah, so that is the extent of the debts that we have on the books.
Say how much?
That's the extent of it. The 20 point. Oh, you mean the total amount?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I don't know the total amount. I'm talking.
I don't know the exact amount, but we are still paying on the career center. So that's not, that debt has not been extinguished as of yet. And that's per the schedule when it was initially approved.
So what would be the reason that we would do this instead of just paying it from the money that we saved from this calendar year?
So when we approved the bond proposal back when we built the career center, it was built into the schedule where we would be able to receive so much money per year for capital improvements. And so the board could elect to receive those funds every year for capital improvements without an increase in millage. So that was factored into the proposal that was approved. As you can imagine, Ms. Hartman, there are multiple capital projects that are ongoing, in addition to the career center. So it wouldn't necessarily be feasible to say, now we build a career center, now we don't need to put a new roof on the high school or to do floors at the middle school or all the different projects that will come about during the course of a year. So we recognized that in addition to taking care of the debt at the Career Center, we also had to provide funding in order to take care of capital needs during the course of years. And I'm so excited that we did it in a manner that would not result in any debt millage increase.
Right, but you're saying that we're going, you're talking about a bond for $2 million, and we're saying that we're going to save $2 million from discount last year, right? As far as,
Well, that yet to be determined, so Kevin was making a projection, but yeah, so we very well may.
and then we have the fund balance there as well.
Yes.
So what is the need to really do this?
So Ms. Hartman, just quite honestly, we had extensive facility needs throughout the district. I'll say that we are in a much better place than we were 5 or 6 years ago, but we surely are not there yet. You know, I was just sharing with someone earlier that the air conditioning at the district auditorium at the high school just went out last week, but it's 30 plus years old.
And 2 years of issues with that, I already know.
Well, and so, I mean, so you constantly have to upgrade your facilities, and
I've
so.
been saying that for years too.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to do, Ms. Hartman, and so that's what we're doing with the money, is upgrade the facility. And so you still have to put new roofs on buildings, I mean, roofs wear out eventually, air conditioners don't last forever, you gotta do new floors, I mean, so there are lots of facility improvements that are still necessary. And so when you look at, you know, some of the items on the project, you'll see that there are several things that we need to do. Exterior doors, for example, at high school. I mean, some of the doors, I mean, we have the hardest time just trying to close and shut and lock.
Oh, I know, I took all kinds of pictures in the high school, how I made the statement to you that we needed a lot of work on that, the newest school we have in our county.
So, Ms. Renee, you should be in 100% agreement.
You called me Mr. Daniel again?
Y'all look just alike, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
But I guess you should be in agreement, Ms. Hartman, so you've identified that we have some facility improvements that are needed.
Long time ago.
Yeah, but we've been doing things a long time ago. I mean, you know, let's just imagine, Ms. Hartman, we've been doing facility improvements virtually every year I've been here. Now, you obviously can't do everything all at one time, but we've done something every single year. We've not had one single year where we've not done things to upgrade our facilities. Now, I'll say that we are in a much better place, but we are where we need to be at. And so, therefore, we have to continue to work to get where we want to be.
I agree with that, but I'm just looking at, you know, with the savings, why we can't use that we're proposing that we should have than to make another loan.
And so, Ms. McDaniel, I'll tell you, but Ms. Hartman, what I'll tell you is, once it's determined, Ms. Hartman, that we have a surplus, then I can assure you I'll be bringing back a new list of projects that we need to implement. So these are not the extent of our facility needs in Fairfield County. These aren't the extent of it. I mean, obviously that moves the ball forward, but there are many, many things that still are left to do.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I agree. I thought when we were over there last year and they were putting the new air conditioners in, I thought they put new air conditioners over at the high school. Did they not?
And it's a very good question, Ms. McDaniel. So you probably notice when you go into high school, in that foyer area, in the cafeteria, all of those are new units. But there are, I can tell you how many units. We didn't replace all the units. That would cost millions. But we are kind of doing them in cycles, if you will. And so we did replace the units in one part of the building, but the units that went out were in the auditorium. We didn't replace those units. And so there were several units on various floors that haven't been replaced. For example, we replaced the units in the chorus room. But we've not had an initiative where we've gone in and said we are going to replace all the units throughout Fairfield Central High School. We've not done that, which obviously would be a good thing.
The only reason I bring that up,
Okay.
because you know when we were deliberating about that field house. Would I have no issues with us building a field house, but the amount of money we put in that field house when we still had undue business at the high school, we sit right here and discuss it as a matter of concern. And now we're saying that we hadn't fixed all the air conditioners over at the high school.
No, I didn't say that. I said we had replaced all the air conditioning in the high school. The unit in the auditorium just went out a few days ago. So if we have a unit that needs to be replaced, we're going to replace it immediately. Your question was, did we replace all the units? No. So there are some units, Ms. McDaniel, that may be 30 years old that are running fine today. Does that mean that they won't go out a year from now, 2 years from now?
But we're determining today, which is less than a year ago,
Okay.
that we have to replace units. And we expressed concern about a whole lot of issues at the high school. I'm just saying.
Well, Ms. McDaniel, let me say this, and you and I have had extensive conversations about this as well. I'll say all day and twice on Sunday that the facility that we had our young people going in that served as field houses were deplorable. They were an embarrassment. So given the option of making a recommendation to this board that we build an adequate athletic facility for our young people, I would do the same thing here. And so
but we sacrificed those children at high school. That was part of the conversation we had as well. But we ain't gonna sit here and go back and forth. What's done is done. I'm just saying. But we was assured when we bought up the fact that we was investing that much money in the field house that we did not have issues at the high school. And now we have all this list of things that we're repairing at the high school. I'm done.
Okay, well, I won't even respond to that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on the bond? All right, seeing no further discussion, it's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor of approving the GO bond for not to exceed $2.2 million, please indicate by raising your right hand. That is 6 negative. 1, okay, 6-1. Thank you.
I'd like to put on the record the reason I voted against it. I feel like we should use the remainder of what's left over from this calendar, the year that we're just finishing up, instead of borrowing money. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss, whatever your name is. Thank you, Ms. Hartman. I'm sorry, no disrespect. All right, Human Resources.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For your approval this evening under HR Item 1, the superintendent recommends the board approve certified resignations and terminations for current staff members who will not return after the conclusion of the 2017-18 academic year, and that is presented to you in Exhibit 1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll entertain a motion in regard to certified resignation termination in Exhibit 1.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that we accept the superintendent recommendation to approve the certified resignation termination for current staff members who will not return after the conclusion of the 2017-18 academic year, presented in Exhibit 1.
Thank you, sir. It's been motioned by Ms. Harrison. It has been seconded by Reverend Jackson to accept the superintendent's recommendation for certified resignation terminations in Exhibit 1. Bearing in mind this is Human Resources, so we can have no discussion on it. All those.
But I do have a question on the motion.
Yes, ma'am.
The motion is saying that they will not return after the 2017-18 year, the 2017-18 year is already up. And they signed a contract, so we're saying these are people that we're actually letting out of their contract?
I believe that's correct.
So you're saying a
Yes,
suitable
ma'am.
replacement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We need to make sure that
And we want to modify the motion to include suitable replacement as we usually do. All right. I believe Ms. Harrison accepts that friendly amendment, as we will call it today. The motion is and has been seconded to approve the certified recommendations in resignation terminations for the conclusion of the 17-18 school year, provided suitable replacement is found. Thank you for that clarification, Ms. McDaniel.
But it's still not clarified. You're still saying at the conclusion of the 17-18 year. 17-18 year is over. So we're just...
Well, they signed the contract, so...
For 18-19.
Okay. Is that what we meant, 18-19?
Say again, sir?
Is the contract year 17-18 or 18-19?
On the exhibit that you have reviewed, there are a couple that are requesting to be released from the 18-19 contract.
Okay. Okay. So.
So, Mr. Chair, I just correct the motion that we had. I just move that we approve the resignation terminations presented
In Exhibit 1.
in Exhibit 1.
Thanks, ma'am. I think that's what we were getting at.
Yeah.
Are we all, does anybody have any question on what we're voting on? I think we all are aware but no, it's a very good clarification that you.
Well, we need to make sure we have these right for legal purposes.
Yes, ma'am. You are absolutely correct. And I believe the motion, and I will restate the motion, is to approve the superintendent's recommendation for resignation, termination for certified personnel in Exhibit 1.
I second this back.
And it is still seconded by Reverend Jackson. All those in favor indicate by raising the right hand. Well, that's 7-0. Thank you, and thank you for the clarification.
Next, for your approval, under HR item number 2, the superintendent recommends the board approve certified staff members for academic year 2018-19, and presented to you is Exhibit 2A, 2B, and 2C.
And the chair is not aware of any reason why we could not take those all in one motion. So if somebody wanted to do that, I think that'd be appropriate.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve certified staff members academic year 2018-2019, 2A, Exhibit 2B, and Exhibit 2C. Providing a second.
Mr. Chair, I second.
Thanks, sir. Motion by Mr. Miller. It is being seconded by Pastor Jackson to approve the superintendent's recommendation for certified staff members for academic year 18-19 in 2A, 2B, and 2C. Again, no discussion of this unless we messed up the motion again. Ms. McDaniel approves of the motion. So we'll move to the question. All those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. All those in negative, abstaining. That is 6 in favor, 1 abstention. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
To reflect my abstention based on the conversation we had in executive session.
Yes, ma'am.
And lastly, for your approval, you have district stipends for the 2018-19 school year, where the superintendent recommends the board approve district stipends for certified, classified, athletic, and band staff for academic year 2018-19. This is presented to you in Exhibits 3A and 3B.
This time, Chair, entertain a motion in regard to Exhibits 3A and 3B.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion. Accept the superintendent's recommendation. The board approve district stipend for certified, classified, athletic, and band staff for the year of 2018-2019. Exhibit 3A, Exhibit 3B. Providing a second.
Mr. Chair, I second.
Thank you, sir. It's been a motion by Mr. Miller. It's been seconded by Pastor Jackson to accept the superintendent's recommendation for stipends for certified, classified, athletic, band staff for 18-19 school year in Exhibit 3A, 3B. Is there any discussion on that?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Harper?
can it be explained to me why the difference, how do you come up with the stipends difference as far as determine how much different departments get?
And so, Ms. Harper, that's primarily a decision that they make on a local level. And so you probably see where one school may have department chairs for every department. Some schools may have team leads. So principals with their administrative team really make those decisions.
These, a lot of them are coaches and all.
Okay. Yeah, that's something different. I thought you meant school level. So you're talking about athletic stipends?
Well, really, I'm asking really what you're saying. How do they determine the difference between teachers and these are so much higher than what the teachers are getting?
So in terms of athletic stipends, Ms. Hartman, obviously that's something that I think the board was involved in years ago in terms of determining what athletic stipends were. So we've not really made many modifications to athletic stipends. I really couldn't speak to exactly what that process was, but that's not something that's determined at the local level. That is similar to a salary scale, and I think the board was involved in determining those stipends.
Well, that was before my time, so I guess I wouldn't know. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
no, the board, if the board was involved, it was through committee, but the board would not have set these stipends, and these stipends have changed in the last some odd number of years. But just like the salary schedules we talked about earlier, just like we changed these, we can change those. But I think the concern is the alignment of the athletics versus academics. And I would hope that at some point, at some time, that we would give the same consideration for the academics supplements that we give for the athletic supplements.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion?
That'd be a written
I think your opinion on that has been quite firm and unchanging and unshaking through my tenure on the board. Any further discussion on the stipends? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving, got the glasses on but still lost my spot. The stipends in Exhibit 3A and 3B indicated by raising your right hand. That's 5. Negative? Abstentions? 5 in favor, 2 abstentions. Thank you. That leads us down to me. I do want you to look at the board calendar. I think we're here for one more month before we start the traveling road show around the county. So see y'all back here on August 21st. I do want to take one point, since Dr. Mason talked all about our successful art program. We did this year have two students from the middle school who were accepted to the South Carolina Governor's School for the Arts, and they had a successful 2 weeks. I know one of them pretty well, and it was very hard getting her back home from Greenville. But we're all proud of our students, and I want to thank the staff over there, particularly Mr. Boyd, who teaches art over at the middle school. He took a lot of time helping prepare students for that. So just giving them a little bit of a shout out there. That's all I got. This is not fun looking over a pair of glasses. I just want to say I'm not enjoying this part at all. But anyway.
Mr. Terry.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask this, when are we prepared for the STEM students to come before us, when this is got back? When are they going to come before us? I know they said we wanted them to come back to kind of tell us about their trip.
Right.
Things they learned.
Yeah, probably what I would say, Mr. Miller, let's shoot for September. I know some students are still out and about with various camps, and so all of them will be back in town by August. Their school starts third week of August, so let's shoot for the September meeting. We may have to come back.
Dr. Do you have any anticipated time that we might hear from Ferguson? From Kelly on that cafeteria name? Any idea when some decision or some recommendation will come?
So I'll bring the request. So the process, Mr. McDaniel, is the initial request comes to the board. Then the board gives me directives to maybe send it to committee. The committees are formed at those local sites. So the first step is when it comes to the board, so it comes to the board in August.
Anything further? Nothing further? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. Motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you all very much.
See y'all later. Here we go.